Hey guys, I thought I'd make a video today showing you how I make homemade beef jerky. It's something that I like to make, and it's been a while since I made any, and I have never shared a video on how we do it. So I thought I would show you today what I do to make the jerky. First of all, I'm starting with some thin sliced beef. It makes it really easy to make jerky with when you already buy it thin sliced. And here we have just a little bit under 2 pounds of jerky. So yeah, we'll see how much it ends up making, and the final bit you'll see after it dries it's a lot less than you have here. But the thin sliced beef seems to work so much better. You don't have to do all the cutting yourself. But to help it out a little bit, I had this in the freezer for a few minutes. Had it in there for a little less than an hour. If you're slicing all of it yourself, then you want to make sure that you have it in there for a good while, because it'll make the slicing so much easier. So I'll get started on slicing this first, and then I'll show you how we season it. I got the seasoning here, so I'll show you what we do with that then. Okay, so as you can see, you have the slices here, and that'll should be able to separate the slices and then lay it on our cutting sheet and slice it pretty easy then. Alright, here's our first slice, and you want to make sure that you can kind of get it laid flat. As you can see, it has a little bit of rigidness to it there because of the freezer, so it should be able to cut pretty well. So we're going to cut some small strips. You can see some of the fat in here. I don't mind too much fat through here because we don't let jerky set that long anyways, but you want to make sure and get the meat with the least amount of fat that you can, especially if you're going to be storing jerky for very long. The fat turns rancid, and you don't want that. So some of this I will cut out some of the big parts of fat here, but for the majority of this with the little marbling, I don't mind that at all. Okay, I'm going to cut the strips this direction here, so we have kind of some smaller strips, and I think it'll work better and be easier to put on the dehydrator when we're finished. And I like a strip about like this, about that wide there. As you can see, this is pretty thin. Maybe we can get on the camera here how thin sliced this meat is. That'll work out really well for what we're wanting to do with it. Then you just proceed to cut your strips however wide, however big you want to cut them. Everyone has their own taste of what size jerky strips they like, but this seems to work out pretty well. And as you can see, already cut these into this width, and we should be ready to go there. Alright, here we have another piece. As you can see, it still has some fat, so we're going to cut that fat out before we slice this piece. And as I'm slicing this, I'm putting them over here onto the paper towel so we can season it. Once I get the whole paper towel full, I'll show you how we season that. There again, we're laying all the strips out once we get them cut. Now, once we have this first layer here, I'm going to go ahead and season to show you how we season it, so you don't have to watch all of this cutting up the whole package of meat here. But I'm going to cut just a little bit more, and then we'll get back to seasoning this. Alright, I'm just moving these strips kind of close to each other, that way we can get more on here. Make the most out of our layer of meat here. Okay, now we're on to seasoning, and this is the seasoning that I like for this type of jerky. I make another type that is snack sticks that have a different seasoning I like better, but this seasoning here just comes from our local grocery store. I think you can find it online, High Mountain Seasonings, and I really like the taste of this one. It's the pepper blend. I usually add extra black pepper to mine anyways, or spice it up with some cayenne pepper, but this one is pretty good like it is. So it comes with packages of cure and packages of seasoning. And since we had just almost 2 pounds here, you just look on the back and it tells you what you have to do and how to measure it out for the seasoning. It also comes with these little shakers that are pretty cool. So when you put your seasoning in it, you can use the shaker. I think it comes with 1 or 2 of those shakers, and so it makes it really handy. Even when you're finished, you can use these shakers for other stuff that you need in the kitchen. So this is the seasoning that we have. Now that we have all the meat laid out here, we're going to put us a layer of seasoning over the top of this meat. You have to kind of space it out and use, you know, a little bit here, turn it over, and then we'll put some more. And you have to remember you have more meat to seasoning, so you don't want to use it all the first time here. Once we mix it together later, the seasonings will penetrate the meat all together, and that's where it'll get most of its flavor. But for right now, just kind of put a decent layer over the top of the meat. Now, since we have the first layer cover there, you can see it's on the meat there pretty decent. We're going to flip the meat and coat the other side before we put it into the bowl to mix it all together. Now that we have the meat flipped over, we're going to put another layer of seasoning on this side of the meat. Again, just kind of get a decent coating over it. Don't use all of your seasoning here on the first little bit. You have a long ways to go. So just make sure you get every piece seasoned. Make sure you're not missing one, and you want to try to spread it as evenly as possible. Okay, now that we have the seasoning on the meat here, as you can see, both sides are covered in seasoning, and it's looking pretty good. So we're going to put this over into a bowl. We're going to be mixing it all together later, and if we have any remaining seasoning, we'll be putting them in the bowl then, and mixing all the different, you know, strips that we have all together. So just find you a bowl. We have one here that's fairly large, and we'll put them over into this. Have some gloves here. When we get to the final mixing stage, sometimes getting your hands all down in there, you'll really end up with seasoning smell on your hands. So if you want to use gloves, go ahead. I don't always use the gloves, but you're more than welcome to use them if you'd like. Okay, now that you have your first bit of meat done, you just repeat that same process with the remaining meat that you have. We still have quite a bit to do here, so I'll do the same thing I've done. I'll come back to you once I have it all cut up before I mix it all together. All right, now we're all finished. We got all the meat cut up. We got all the meat seasoned. Now we do have a little bit of the seasoning left, so we'll add this to it, and we'll make sure that all of this gets mixed together very well. So that's what I'm fixing to do right now. And like I said before, when you're mixing the meat, sometimes you do get a lot of the seasoning smell on your hands. So since we're going to have both hands down in there, I am going to put on the gloves. It'll just save a little smell later on. So we're going to finish off this seasoning here. Again, we measured out the High Mountain jerky seasoning to make sure we had the right amount. So now we want to make sure that we use all of this. That way we have all the right amount of cure and seasoning for the meat. All right, as you can see, we have all the seasoning in there. Now we're going to make sure it's all blended together very well. All right, as you can see, I think we got it all mixed up pretty well. I don't see any thick spots of seasoning, so I think it's all blended together pretty good. So next step is Ziploc bag. Pretty straightforward, just pile it all in the Ziploc bag. Once we have it all in the Ziploc bag, I want to try to kind of even it out. And close your bag partially, and then try to work out as much air as you can out of the bag. the least amount of air that you have in the bag, the better the spices will penetrate the meat, and air hitting the meat as well will cause spots that doesn't get the flavor well. So we're just rolling it up and trying to squeeze all of that air out. We can seal it, and now as you can see, we've done a pretty good job of getting the air out of it. Now, I will make one note that this mixture is a little bit different than some of the other jerky seasonings that you might have. Some of them will say to add water, so you may have more liquid in the bag when you're finished than I do here. I'll probably put this directly in the refrigerator like it is here. Have a spot on the shelf that's cleared out just for this. If your mixture requires liquid of some sort, you want to make sure that you put it in another pan, maybe put it on a baking sheet or something, just in case the bag decides to spring a leak. You don't want to mess in your refrigerator. This doesn't look like it's going to be too bad, so may or may not use that depending on how much space I have in the refrigerator. So that's pretty much it for right now. We're going to, like I said, put it in the refrigerator for about 24 hours. Make sure that you look at your seasoning to see how long it says that you need to keep it in the refrigerator for. Some will require longer, some doesn't require that much. So this will go in the refrigerator. I'll be back tomorrow after it has set, and we'll get it ready to put on the dehydrator and let you see what it's like then. So we'll see you in just a minute. All right, we're back now after 24 hours. The meat has been sitting overnight with all the spices and all the seasonings, so it should be ready to go. This morning when I got up, I actually flipped it over so that way it would all be as equal as it could be, and hopefully every piece is seasoned well. So now we're fixing to get ready to put this on the dehydrator. First off, take the lid off the dehydrator, and I set the trays aside, all except the bottom tray. Put on our gloves now again. Now open the bag and try to separate these pieces. You don't want them rolled up. As you can see this piece here, how it's kind of folded here. We want to make sure that it doesn't stay folded once it goes on the dehydrator. So make sure and spread it out. Lay it down on the dehydrator. These pieces can be close to each other. If they're barely touching, it's okay, but you want to try to leave a little bit of a gap if you can, if you have the room. They will shrink up, so you'll have plenty of room later, but you don't want them overlapping at all. So just make sure and lay them out as evenly as you can on here. Okay, we got all of our trays loaded up, and we tried to space it out about as even as we could. So we've got, I think, all 5 trays? Maybe 4 trays. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 trays is what we have here. So we are going to make a couple of these trays spicy. And to do that, I am going to set off the top 3 trays. And I have some cayenne pepper here and some more black pepper that we're going to add to these. I do like these pretty spicy, so I will add a good amount of cayenne pepper. I do this at this point in it because I do have a family, wife and kids, and they don't all like them quite as spicy as I do. Now onto some black pepper. Now that we finished up spicing these 2 trays up, we take a dry erase marker and we'll write on the side of these, or make just a little H. Just in case someone can't see all the cayenne pepper on there, we'll know that these 2 trays are the hot trays. So with this dehydrator, you're not supposed to have to rearrange the trays once it's started. The airflow is supposed to take care of it all automatically, so no rotating the trays. This is actually a new dehydrator for me. I've not used this particular one yet, so we're going to find out how this goes. This is the Nesco Professional Dehydrator. It has the different temperature settings. Some dehydrators will have the temperature settings, some do not. This one will tell you if you're doing jerky or fish or fruits and vegetables, the different temperatures that you can set it on. So I'm anxious to actually use this one and see how well it does. With it being a new dehydrator, it's going to be a little bit tricky to actually see the time. Normally I let meat dry for about 8 hours or so, but it always changes. It all depends on the humidity in the house, and depends on how thick the meat is and how dry you actually like the meat. My wife, she really likes the meat really crispy and extremely dry, as to where I don't like mine quite that dry. So it's all subjective as to how dry you want to get it. So we'll check back after we get this going. We'll check back in about 6 hours or so and see how it is, and then we'll go from there. So once we're finished, I'll let you know how long it actually took. But until then, we're going to get this dehydrator ready. Make sure our trays are on there. Make sure our lid's on good. And then we'll plug it up and get it going. So we'll be right back once this is finished and let you know how long it took. All right, we're back now and the jerky is finished. I kind of missed my 6-hour mark, and we let this go for 7.5 hours. And I will say before I take this off and show you, it is a little more dry than I prefer it. My wife loves it this way. But I kind of with the new dehydrator was kind of surprised, but 7.5 hours on the 160-degree setting for the jerky, yeah, it was more than enough after 7.5 hours. As you can see, the tray isn't full. That's because we've already sampled some of this and it tastes great. But I will show you here, if you look at this, it is a little more dry than I like it. You can probably see up close, but it's still not bad. So yeah, it turned out great. As far as the taste, we love that, and the hot, yeah, it's very spicy, but it's good. So really like that. So now we're going to bag this up, separate the, I guess you say, mild from the hot, and bag it up. That way we can finish this later on. We've got it all bagged up, and as you can see, we don't have near as much left as we started with. So we're going to weigh this here and see kind of how much we have. 0.576 pounds. So yeah, just a little over a half a pound. Like I said, we have sampled a few pieces, so we at least got half a pound out of the 2 pound of meat. So you do end up losing quite a bit once you put it on the dehydrator. So now that it's bagged up, we're just going to try to take as much of the air out as we can. And this will only sit on our counter for a couple days before it's gone, so it's really not going to have time to go bad at all. So hope you enjoyed that video. Hope you learned a little bit of something about making jerky. If you liked the video, hit the thumbs up button. Sure appreciate that. Leave in the comments what you thought or what you would do different, or maybe give me a recipe for my own seasoning. Whatever you want to do, and leave it in the comments there. Also, make sure and subscribe if you're not already subscribed to our channel. Hit the little bell, that way you'll be notified when I post a new video. And until next time, God bless.